Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone. This is on. Great. Excited to be here. Yusuf, my co-founder, is in the other room, so I'm happy I at least have a little bit of competition against him. Appreciate that. I'm going to talk about how to start or how not to start your agency. I'm just going to start with our story. It starts January 1st, 2019. Yusuf and I had just decided to become entrepreneurs at that date. We both had jobs, and we felt like it was time to take a plunge. It didn't matter to us what we were doing. We had this SaaS idea, and we decided to quit our jobs. We had 3 months on the bank, and to give it a shot. Of course, we were very inspired by all of these people online that just built like a cool software business, easily grow it to 10K MRR, and then we would just enjoy our life. That was the plan. And for me, that was great because I instantly decided to move to Thailand, which is a very sensible thing, I think, to do. That life went a little bit differently because the plan we had to sustain ourselves during that time was to have like a freelance job for 2 days a week, and that would sustain our income, that would allow us to live. The other days we could spend on our software project. Of course, we were building the software project on Bubble, something I found out because I was not technical, and I just wanted to help Yusuf out. Day 3 after arriving in Thailand, I got a message from our freelance client, basically telling me, hey, this project is not going on, and you have no income, basically. So naturally, I would do what anyone did at the time. I ordered a beer, and I freaked out. Started sketching these weird ideas of, what other ideas do we have? How can we make money? We didn't have the chops to pull off a software product that would pay 2 salaries in a short amount of time. So naturally, we would go for an agency that would help people build products with NoCode. Back in the day, no one really knew about this, so we thought it would be a good opportunity to pursue it. Well, 2 guys on a website is not really a cool thing to do, so we just decided to call it an agency instead. We had a few ideas. This is still a note from that time. 80/20 actually became a competitor at some point, so I think we were onto something, but it became Minimum Studio. We didn't think this through at all. It was just minimum viable products, product studio, we need something tomorrow, let's get it up. So I created this god-awful website the next day. It created it in Webflow. It took me a few hours because we needed something to go live. We thought we were very clever. We said, we're going to build this in weeks, not months. We're going to build it with the business in mind, not the technology. Everything that's very common now was still new back then. Now it just kind of seems redundant to say it. But it was actually, we felt like it was unique. It's also a long time ago. I still had dark hair. Yusuf still had hair. So it was a very different time. 5 years ago, we thought we were very smart and like temporary CTOs. We were also kind of acting cool about how much time it took to build the website. Only 10 hours. This was the whole new thing, this NoCode thing. And no one was interested. This was my inbox. 6 months of this inbox and us scrambling to get by in different means. So the tough challenge we had here was convincing people that NoCode was even a thing. People thought it was a prototype. They weren't really in need of any prototypes. Startups were just scared to use these tools. But luckily, we persevered. We put ourselves online on this website called MakerPad, which was this early directory of NoCode tools and education. And this email or this candid link changed our life. It was our first client from the US. We had no experience with it, and she booked us to build something for way too little money in way too little time. But it was a start. I'm telling you all this because I think it's pretty clear from the story that we did this by accident. Like, it was not a plan that we had. We didn't have experience running an agency. We didn't really know what an agency was and what the business actually entailed. So the first thing I think if you're thinking about starting an agency, you should ask yourself, that I didn't at the time, is should you do it at all? If you're currently someone who really enjoys building in these tools, and you really enjoy being in the editor, being creative, pushing things to life, and getting compliments for your work, then the agency life is probably not for you. I think this career path is really lucrative. You can be a very high-paid freelancer. There's a lot of great opportunities, and you can just be creative and be left alone. If you do decide to do an agency, you have 3 new jobs: sales, operations, and hiring. Anytime you're not doing any of these jobs, you're basically failing. So you're throwing out your enjoyable creative life in favor of something new. This also means you change your relationship with building things and being in the editor. So you need to commit to not being in the editor anymore. You don't use these tools, other people use these tools, and you organize the things around them. Something I got wrong quite a lot, and so did Youssef, and it's a challenge every day to not go back into the tools and to actually run the agency. You need to develop a different relationship with the editor entirely. Basically, whenever you open it, you should be crying because you failed, and you're not supposed to be there. You're probably fixing a problem that you shouldn't have been fixing at all. So you change your relationship with the editor, you become a different person. Instead, you spend your time, meeting people, meeting business people, learning about their needs, learning about clients, and hiring people and growing your business, which is just a different skill set. This is great as well. I would recommend it if you get bored of the editor very easily, if you want new things constantly, if you are excited about exploring new challenges. Agency life can be a really great thing to do, but you have to be aware that it's not a creative job always. If you start an agency, I think it's very important to understand why people hire an agency in general. This is an opinion I have on the subject. It might be wrong, but I feel like people generally pick an agency as an insurance. If you go with a group of freelancers, you don't never really know what kind of work they're going to deliver, and it's a bit of a risk. If you go with an agency that has a big reputation, they have the reputation to protect. So you know that whatever happens with the project, they will need to make up for their loss, and they need to do a good result or bring you a good result at the end. How do you provide that insurance for your clients? I think you generally want to work on your taste and you work on your process. If you really look at the main ingredients of an agency, it's just people's hours, so you need to add a little bit more value to actually make that margin work or to provide more value. So taste is, of course, very subjective. I think it's mostly important that you understand your own taste and the work that you provide that you think is good. The work is just one thing. So you can judge good work, but you need to understand, of course, what good work is. This is the only exception I will make for you being in the editor, because I think you will need to spend a little bit of time with the tools to understand what good work looks like, how to find candidates, and how to find people that are actually doing good work. So this is the only exception at the beginning when you're actually working with the tools. Once you know just enough to judge people, you can stop doing the tools, but you do need a basic understanding or it will be very tough to hire people and to understand the work. So that's one thing. The second thing that taste is important for is, I think, taste in people and taste in clients. If you select the right clients and you select the right people, you will have a very fun agency life, and if you mess it up, it will be very difficult for you. So taste doesn't just apply to work, it also applies to people. I want to talk a little bit about green flags for people and red flags for clients. Green flags for people are more useful because it's more fun to look at positive traits than it is for clients where you're mostly trying to protect. This is one green flag that I really enjoy. It's hiring for slope, not Y-intercept, which is just a Silicon Valley nerdy way of saying you're hiring people with a steep career curve. It doesn't matter what industry people come from, if they have rapid growth in any area, so if they started as an intern, became a key employee 6 months later, or if they started with a new tool and they actually built something decent within a few months, you know that they have potential to grow really quickly. So for us, a green flag in employees is finding people who learn and grow really, really quickly, regardless of where they come from. Second thing is people that are great communicators. This is Pablo on our team. He sends about 70 looms a day, I think. He really loves doing that. And it's very helpful for us because we always know what he's working on. We're always in the loop. And this is not something that is important for every type of company, but for an agency, this is crucial. Like, you need to be able to communicate really well with everyone involved. And the third one is a bias for action. This is a screenshot of Timo recapping his weekend plans, saying he just spent some time improving his Python skills, working on a side project. You need people who are just curious and then start taking action instantly. They will have a lot of fun learning new things while working at the agency. For clients, I think you should reverse the process a bit. It's a lot more simple if you just have a few red flags. We built them up over time. Some of you that freelance or do agency work might recognize them. It's just phrases, to be honest, just things that people say that immediately take me off by now. One is this should be simple. I think you can probably build a tool that takes your call transcript, recognizes this sentence, then just sends the client an email that you're not taking on the project. If they don't ask you whether it's simple, but they just assume, they're probably not respecting your skills or your expertise. And if it's not a conversation, but they've already decided, it's going to be a tough project. Sorry for not responding for 5 weeks. Can we get this tomorrow? This is what we call hurry up and wait. This basically means people don't really respect your time. You will have very tight deadlines, but you'll also be waiting for weeks for any input from your client. Gives you a lot of headaches. We're a big corporate business. Our budget is $3,000. Big company, small budget, red flag for me. This means the project is not important to them, or they're just trying to squeeze for the best price with their name. You would probably just be better off charging a big company a big budget, because then at least you'll get the attention you deserve. I've already built it in a spreadsheet. You just need to port it over. So you can do Bubble. I already have a Google Sheet. How hard can it be? I've already built all the logic. I think the keyword here is just. Whenever anyone just assumes your work is easy, it's time to run. If they ask you whether it is hard, it's a lot easier to work with them as a client. Of course, if you ignore these red flags, you'll end up crying in the editor and fixing the bugs yourself. So that's taste. Process is the second part, right? And just in this very simplified, overly simplified example, you have a briefing from a client, something happens, and you turn it into great work. Only thing I want to say about this, because you could talk about it for hours, is the process is essentially your product as an agency owner. So you are working on the process a lot more than you're working on the client work or the actual products themselves. There's a really big chance that you iterate a lot before you feel like this process actually turns into great results. Something that we didn't do early on that I think we should have done is iterate a lot more quickly and be a lot more fast about our changes and mess around a lot more with this process to find something that works. You basically have an opportunity with every client project to change your process. And although it's super chaotic, at some point you'll find something that's 10 times better than what you've done, and that's something you can easily sell and possibly also easily scale with new people. So iterate on your process a lot more than you think you should, because there's probably a better one out there. That being said, so you have taste and process as the core things that I think you should build before you're starting your agency or bringing people in. You don't have to go all in. Since you're not doing the work yourself, essentially, or you shouldn't be in the editor, you can have your day job, or you can have your side hustle, you can have your main source of income, and you can work on your taste, and you can work on your process. In the end, your process is the product, so it doesn't mean you have to spend all of your time on this agency right away. We did go all in, of course, so we had to take on any client because we had to sustain ourselves. You can probably guess where we ended up, crying in the editor. Pricing is an interesting subject as well, especially early on. A lot of people online enjoy talking about productized services or value-based pricing. This basically means that you don't tell the client about the hours that you put in, and you just charge whatever you think you can charge, and all the margin is yours. Sounds amazing. I think it's a really great idea if you know what you're doing. If you're starting out, this can be a huge problem. You don't know how to scope yet. You do offer a fixed price, and suddenly you're spending a lot of extra months yourself fixing the budget, crying in the editor. I think if you go on the other side and you start out just hourly and you just estimate the projects, you limit your upward risk, but you also limit your downward risk, and it's a lot more safe for you to figure out your process. So early agencies, I would say, estimate everything. Don't go fixed price. Tackle me on this, by the way, if there's anyone who disagrees, I would love to hear it. But I would say this is a lot more safe. And once you know what you're doing, currently we have a better sense of it, we can do value-based pricing again and fixed scope. Operations is also a big topic, what we can talk about forever, but I just want to recap that the purpose of doing a good operation setup or the purpose of the systems is to provide clarity on both sides. Lots of people provide clarity on the client side, but fail to provide clarity on the team member side. You basically can have an angry client and an angry team member, and your job as an agency owner is to be a happy policeman, providing them with docs, with channels, with whatever they need to get clarity about the process. This is also something you probably iterate on, but this is your job as an agency owner. It maybe doesn't seem fun, but if you do it well, everyone will be happy. At some point, we had a lot of new clients, and we thought, let's hire 5 new freelancers, and let's have them work with us. We have never worked with them before. What could possibly go wrong? That's something I would not recommend. There's a complete lack of clarity, and of course, yeah. Getting out there. Something I think about, I'm not going to talk too much about marketing because there's so many things you can possibly do. I'm just going to talk about what really worked for us. Positioning, I think, is something that's really not talked about enough when it comes to agencies. When we started out, our competitors or any other digital agency was really focusing on buzzwords. Digital innovation, digital transformation, innovation catalysts, all these kind of things. And we felt like with these new tools, we needed a new angle, and we needed to be different to some degree. So we did the opposite. We created this colorful, friendly website. It had sound, it had language that a 5th grader could understand. And the only reason we had to do this is because we needed something to set us apart. You know all the agency websites that look like a template. I don't think it's smart if you're starting out to be generic in any form. We also did this because it matched our personality. So I think an agency is such a personal business, and you're dealing with so many people, that I don't think it's smart to try to be something that you're not, or to try to do something that you're not really valuing yourself. We liked to joke around a little bit, and we liked to be more real and honest with clients, so that became our brand. It's not entirely artificial. So positioning matters a lot, and after that, I think you should decide on your approach when it comes to growing your agency. Here I've outlined two types of agencies, and they're on the different side of the spectrum. One is the broccoli haircut guy. You probably know from Twitter, from your DMs. He will text you and he say, I can give you this by this date for this amount of money. He's very clear about the offer. The other one is an agency called House of Apex. This is their website, and this is literally their website. It's just a logo. And they have a bit of text. They're referral only. You can send them an email. It's very high friction. You wouldn't actually think these two are the same business, but we call them agencies nonetheless. I think for you personally, it's important to think about whether you are going to be offer-focused when you're marketing yourself, or whether you're going to be reputation-focused and you keep your services open and you see whatever comes on your lap. This one I think is more utility, so I can do something for you for this amount of money by this time. That one is focused on reputation. I know this person, I did good work for them, they referred me to someone else. Projects could be all over the place. This one has a very different marketing strategy. You can do very clear funnels, you can do cold outreach, you can do ads, because you have a very clear offer. The other one is more serendipitous and more random, I think. You share your work, you build relationships, and it's more of a slow burn over time. It's not something that you really push as much as this. Of course, this one is more short-term focused. You can probably set this up in a very short amount of time. This one has a long-term focus, like once you build a reputation, it will start working for you. This one can probably grow quite quickly, but also decay quite quickly. And I think the reputation is something you build up over time. It's more of a long-term thing. I think if you can solve a specific problem, you can sell more aggressively. So that's the broccoli haircut side of things. That's a very easy way to start marketing yourself, but of course you take a bit of a risk with the proposition that you put out. This is true, but just doing great work and sharing it is also timeless. This is also true. Even looking around me, there's so many examples of people who don't overcomplicate it and just share their work, make relationships with people, and they do a great job at running a profitable agency. So both of these are true. What I would not recommend is doing neither, which is what we did for a few years. You could probably guess where we ended up. And then you need to build your pyramid. So you have your offer, you have your taste, your process, your operations set up. It's time to build a pyramid, and this basically means that any agency is structured like a pyramid, which I'll explain in a second. The first rule, I think, to be sustainable is to have 3 months on the bank. I don't know why this is true. I do know that a lot of people say it, and I do know from practice that it's actually a really great thing to do. So any of your fixed costs, no matter how big they are, just have 3 months cash buffer on the bank. It's just a ground rule. Don't mess with it. We did mess with it. It's not a great idea to do it. So then you start building your pyramid. So it's very important for an agency to understand what the nature of the business is. If you're not doing any billable work, you are essentially the overhead cost of the business. So you'll always be there. You're a fixed cost when you start out. The idea of the agency is that the billable people pay for the entire thing, and if you're lucky, also have a bit of profit left. If you mix this up, so you take that role or they take that role, it becomes very complex. So at the beginning, you have an opportunity to keep your overhead low, which is you, and the people on your team should be doing these hours, and you should maximize their utilization rate, their billable percentage, how many hours do they have, and how many hours are they working for clients. This should pay for the entire thing. So if you're healthy, you keep track of these metrics, and you need to make sure that you're not introducing too much overhead early on. The goal is to build a pyramid, and to not skew the pyramid too much. So if that's overhead, this is senior team members, and this is junior team members. Ideally, they're all ratioed. So you have more junior team members than you have seniors, and you definitely have more billable team members than you have overhead. Otherwise, you're kind of ruining the flow of the company. What can happen if you don't do this well? Imagine you don't have those seniors. You have a lot of maybe lower paid talent. You have juniors, maybe they show a lot of potential, but it's you at the top managing all of it. You can probably guess, but there's a lot of chance you'll be crying in the editor when you're helping them out with the project. So you need those seniors. Another example is having too many seniors on the team and having too little juniors. This is also dangerous because the flow of projects is going to be different when it comes in complexity. So these seniors probably don't want to do simple work or to do simple projects. You probably need to use them for very complex and complicated things. So most projects will actually pass you by, or they will be occupied by the seniors, even though it's below their skill level. So the project flow won't be great if you don't have enough junior talent either. This is worse, by all means. Even if you have more billable people, it's very costly to introduce more overhead. Of course, a very simplified example, you should do the math yourself. But this is extremely costly. You ruin the entire cash flow of the business because you need more profit every month to add new team members who then generate more profit. So the moment you introduce overhead, you have to be really, really careful about how much you're introducing. Ideally, if you introduce any new overhead, you have a much bigger team. So the structure should always be a pyramid. You should always make sure that that ratio is kept in control. Otherwise, there's a chance that you will just run break even for quite a while. Okay, so that's everything I know about an agency. I don't know any more. We can talk about it. Maybe you guys know more. But my biggest conclusion after doing this for a while is that great agencies are usually a slow burn. So I don't think you want to rush the process. I don't think you want to do it in 6 months and then sell it again. I don't think it's that type of business that you just kind of push forward and then know exactly how it's going to run. I think it's much better to treat it like a slow burn, to know that it takes time, and to iterate it over time. It's also very satisfying. For me, it's the most satisfying thing I've ever done, working with these talented people, working with clients, learning about their business. It's a really, really great experience, even if I don't get to be the editor all day. And of course, if we do well enough and I have some time on the weekends, maybe at some point I can be the editor again and mess around a little bit, but do it just for fun. Thanks, everyone. Should we do a bit of questions, I think? Yeah.
Do you want to go for it?
Sure.
Yeah, just point. If you guys have got a question, if you just put your hand up, and then we can just go around the room, maybe.
Yeah, great.
Hi, there's a Richard Gere movie where he sells his company for 250 million, and after the deal, he's like, well, I would have accepted 150 million, and then the other guy's like, I would have paid 500 million. So I know you're not in the millions, but how do you make sure, like, what are your concrete strategies so that this doesn't happen, that you don't undersell what you offer?
We base it on availability most of the time. It's always a gamble, right? So you're always playing this. I assume you're talking about projects, right? Talk about selling a project for a price. Of course, you base it on how scared you are about your billable percentage at the moment. So if you have no work, you'll probably do a lower price. That's kind of how we do it. So of course, we have our hourly rate. We have your estimated cost for a project. We mark that up. So we say, okay, let's do twice the amount, and we have a good profit margin. But if we're really full, we'll mark it up more. So it's more based on our situation than it is trying to figure out exactly how much they can pay, because that's a slippery slope and it's very tough to estimate it correctly. So yeah.
On the marketing scale you showed with the broccoli hair and the reputation, where do you think minimum studio falls on that scale?
I think on the right. I hope on the right, to be honest. No, but we're not very offer focused. I think we're close to the middle, but more to the right. Yeah.
And in terms of tracking how many hours, how many billable hours your staff work out, the total hours, how best do you track that?
We built our own system, which is like, of course, we're Bubble developers, so that was to be expected. So we just have a time tracker. Everyone bills their hours or tracks their time, and we do the calculations always. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you.
Great. I see a question in the back that I don't want to skip. Yeah, sorry.
Hey, love what you're doing. Also, just on what you were mentioning about that you built your own time tracking tool. You obviously have all these great resources to build things. Have you ever been tempted to kind of like build your own SaaS or anything like that, or products, and sell them to clients as well?
I would love to say no. I'd so love to say no.
I'd be so tempted.
That's the biggest challenge, I would say. And we're doing it at the moment, so this is a good moment for me to reconsider that decision. Yeah, all the time.
Thanks for the talk, Mike. Just a quick one. How do you guys figure out when is the right time to like scale up resource or down, even, you know, in regards to team members?
Let me think about, well, that ratio is one of the important things. So sometimes you have to take a little bit of risk to improve it. to make sure that you have a little bit more, even if that means people won't be billable for a second, you know at least that that's the perfect size. Honestly, it should be based on pipeline and the cash flow thing.
Right.
So one thing is, if we have 4 months in the bank for the entire team, we know, okay, we have some room. And then the second question is, how is the pipeline? Are we delegating a lot to freelancers? Then we know we can hire in-house.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Cheers, mate.
Anyone else?
That was really, really fascinating. Can I ask you, one, do you wish you were back in the editor ever and just think, you know what, this whole agency thing is just really hard. Maybe I should just like crush it as a freelancer. And then the second thing is you talked about freelancers there with the team. Do you have, you talked about like the unreliability of freelancers sometimes, and do you have like do you have kind of permalancers? Do you have employees? How do you like class them, and do you think it's important to have full-time employees to grow an agency and scale for the long term?
Yeah, great question. The first one, yeah, I have that thought all the time. I think talking to other agency founders, it's the grass is always greener image that you have, right? So you're like, I could be doing this alone and make much more money and be a freelancer like that. It's also why I'm including it in the talk. But there's always more reasons to do the agency and to continue doing this always. The second question about in-house is, I think it's very personal, just like the way you approach the market. So if you would say broccoli haircut, you're probably 100% freelance. If you're just a logo, you're probably 100% in-house. And I think it has to do with your time horizon as well. So for us, at some point, we realized if we want to do really great quality work, we need to have people in-house. But we started with freelancers because of just the situation, right? You don't have all the cash yet. So I think some people go in-house at some point, some people just stay freelance. So currently our team is mostly in-house, although technically some people are contractors. And then there's just 1 or 2 freelancers. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. I'll bring the mic over, shall I?
It's okay. But could you talk a bit about hiring freelancers and also about how you find them, for example, and then the second part, retention of them?
Yeah. We were, I don't want to say lucky, but as most of you probably know, we're very involved with the community early on. That has been our best asset for hiring. So just being around, being on Twitter, Yusuf joking a lot on Twitter has helped us quite a bit. Just people knowing us has been really helpful, because then whenever we put a job post out, they come to us. So it's not I don't think we did it for that reason, but having a name really helps. The hiring part is we mostly just try to do like small projects or small assessments and tasks, right? So that's a process we improve every time we do it. But yeah, some people say like, I can't work with you until I've worked with you. That's how I think it should be with freelancers.
And then retention?
Yeah, just creating a good place to work. We've had some people that actually work for other agencies. I'm not going to name them, of course, but our process is kind of defined, and we treat our people well. And honestly, I think that's the biggest reason to stay, especially if you have experience where it's not the case. You probably just want to work for a nice team, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
You obviously have a very broad perspective on the market. What would be your blunt, honest take on what the earning potential of solely a freelancer could cap out at?
Whew. Well, I've seen crazy things out there. Depends on the platform, I would say. Right now, if it's like, I know some Webflow freelancers are doing like hundreds of thousands a year. So I think if you pick the right platform, you won't go to $300 an hour, but I think you could go to 200 at some point, right? And depending on the market, depending on who you're servicing. I think in the bubble world, that's not really the case at the moment, unless there's someone here that's like, I do that, amazing. So I think depending on the platform, the earning potential can be huge. Yeah.
And sorry, and I'm asking a lot of questions. One final question. To pick your brain on it, how often do you ever have the conversation internally about your tech stack in terms of assessing Bubble and its future and everything that goes with it?
Yeah, so if Bubble makes us gold within a few months from now, then we won't have to have this conversation anymore. But we only seriously have that conversation when something bad happens with Bubble. So I think some people know about the pricing situation like a year ago or something, where they did a huge change that was just not beneficial for anyone. Then you start exploring. Occasionally, we do these small projects with something else, and we've just been going back to Bubble every time. So we've tried to move away, but no. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you again, Mike.
Thanks.
Brilliant. Can we just give Mike another hand? Thank you.